Perfect. So, next question. In your opinion, if you're looking for an entrepreneur, what characteristics do you consider he or she should have?
Well, passion, dedication, focus. Focus is very important. Many things can happen along the path to success, right? But if there's a clear focus on what you guys want, and you don't let anything happen until you reach that goal, I think things can happen.
Well, without leaving, any other things, I think Anna will touch on. One of the things I've been more intrigued lately is basically multicultural and teams coming together from different parts of the world. And actually, there is so much happening at such a lightning speed that if you're talking to a company and you're talking to an entrepreneur and you don't get the feeling that he's connected to Silicon Valley, to maybe India, to somewhere where more knowledge is being developed on the line of work he's creating, it's very hard for you to feel comfortable that he's really knowing what's happening around the world. In particular, we've been very involved in the clean tech sector, and there's so many things going on, and unless you talk to the entrepreneur, and if he doesn't mention that he knows what's going on in China, he knows what's going on in Silicon Valley, in some other specific spots, you get the feeling that, well, he might know just a very piece of the universe, what's really going on. So I really look for international coming together of teams. I think that's a lot of value out there.
Yeah, from my experience, best entrepreneurs are obsessed with the market. And so they have a personality where they're not trying to dictate to the market, tell the market what they need, but they're obsessed with finding out what the market wants. So I think there's a certain humility with that. And these aren't guys, these aren't guys who are driven by title. They don't, it's not as important to them to be known as the CEO or to have control. They're more interested in delighting the customer. They're obsessed with giving the customer what the customer wants. It's something that seems to be a pretty common thread for good entrepreneurs.
I guess there's a difference between passionate and emotional. Because if you're really emotional, the reality is that the startup world is probably not for you, because it's a bit of a roller coaster. You will have the highs of the highs and the lows of the lows, and if you can't keep an even keel throughout that entire ride, it's going to be a difficult road. I would say that there are very few companies out there that have been started by individual entrepreneurs. And so I would say that it's really important that you look at that entrepreneur and his partner, or the group of entrepreneurs that are actually bringing an idea to you, because it's usually going to take a team in order to be able to execute on any idea. You're going to, at least from what I've seen, the entrepreneurs that do very well are the ones who are very opinionated, because they are passionate and they do truly understand and think they understand a particular space. But as a VC once told me, everybody wants to date the hot girl. No one wants to marry the hot girl. And part of that is there also needs to be a level of humility as you go through this process, and understand that there are people out there who may know more than you. And so you want someone that crosses that rides that fine line between they feel like they know where the company needs to go, where the industry needs to go, but from the right people, possibly people on their board, their investors, they are going to take feedback.
I just have two comments to add. To Justin's point about good entrepreneurs aren't usually very focused on title or personal prestige. I think that's very true. I find that the most successful entrepreneurs are the people who can, as soon as they take their first investment, or they get their first customer, or they get their first employee, meaning now the company is greater than themselves. They're the people who can put the best interest of the company before themselves at all times. And the best entrepreneurs do that inherently. It's in their DNA. They've just given birth to this company, and now that company is more important than any individual. The people who get stuck, I think, are the ones who find themselves in a constant dilemma of what's best for me versus what's best for the company. And if you find yourself in that dilemma a lot, you're probably not moving the company forward as fast as possible.
Perfect. So we've seen that when we speak with investors, some say that they like to invest in big markets, others like to invest in core technology or a company that has a defensive position, or just companies that are led by interesting people. So can you tell us what kind of ventures do you usually invest in and which ones are more attractive to you?
Let me start. And it's in our fund. It's hard to say. It's not. We haven't developed a strategy or a framework to go over certain opportunities. It's a very. I guess it's one of the first funds being put together here in Guadalajara, and investors. As we bring ideas to an investment community, we're also, learning from the reactions we're getting, and then trying to get comfortable with the level of risk that investors are willing to take. My investors, it's a very, we're very much doing baby steps to what the rest of the people here on the panel maybe are used to. But having said that, I think the appetite right now is there because everybody is very aware of the speed and the success stories out there, and starting to feel many people were not around, but starting to feel like it felt in '99 when every whatever.com was a super hot idea. So for me as a fund manager, I very much need to take the role of a risk manager in a way that I have basically touched all the bases. The biggest thing I don't want to be faced with is that I didn't ask the question, I didn't envision this competitor or this other risk. So inherently we're taking risks, making investments, but I want to have the best knowledge possible of whatever thing I'm studying at that point. And I mentioned clean tech because that's one of the sectors where I think is the first step where we've taken, and we'll continue to do some in clean tech. And there, I think the difference from other venture firms or internet firms is that there is always a big problem to solve. And I think if you focus on what that problem is and what the solution this technology brings to the marketplace, then it comes to more business things like how good the team is, how good the deal is, and what is the size of the opportunity. So I think there is a better framework. So I would encourage the group to really to think about that field. I think clean tech has a lot of things to come, and I think Mexico is a little behind the curve on that.
Well, so, check. We invest in a variety of stages. So, and in a lot of ways determines what types of investments we're doing, what sectors we're investing in, and what our strategy is. So our fund is focused primarily on venture stages. So that would mean an investment between 1 and 3 million. The growth stages, maybe 20%. That would be 5 million up. And then my focus personally is on the seed stage. And so we're doing $200,000 up to $1 million investments. And the entrepreneurs that we're looking for are entrepreneurs that are targeting big markets. So we're pretty. I think VCs a lot of times there's really not that much mystery. I think we're pretty simple. We look for the best entrepreneurs that are targeting the most attractive markets. And so it's, it doesn't have to be much more complex than that, but the way that they go about approaching the market is really the key. And so we have a system a methodology that we use called nail it and scale it. And the idea is that before you spend any money on development, before you pour money into the company, before you go and hire the team and get office space, how can you conduct controlled experiments in the marketplace to determine whether or not you test your assumptions. So the best entrepreneurs, they fail fast, they iterate quickly, and they figure out how to do that without spending a lot of money. That's what we love to see is resourceful entrepreneurs who, before they even come to raise money, they already have a body of evidence that they've been able to put together. And it's amazing how much can be done without raising money. I don't want to downplay what money can do for a company, but one thing that we found is that a surefire way to destroy a company early on is to give them too much money. Because they'll go out and they'll start growing their payroll, they'll add people, and all of a sudden they've created this, network that the information has to flow through in order to get back to the right person. So you have your salesperson out there that's working, and he's getting feedback from the market, and then he's trying to get that put back into the product somehow. And the bigger the company gets, the harder that is to actually get into the product. And so lean, small teams, very, very focused, flexible, and scientists in a lot of ways. Entrepreneurs are risk takers, they're creative, but I think that they figure out how to take that creativity and construct experiments that don't cost a lot of money. And then once they've focused in on something that there's validation in the marketplace, you put money behind a guy like that, and he's going to launch it in the direction that he's already